My name is Lorentzen. I am the director of Midnight Family, which is in the international documentary competition in the Zurich Film Festival.
Sube el espejo, papá.
Ya llevamos 3 días que no trabajamos, güey.
No va a haber desayuno, comida y cena así. Cantar 2 comidas al día.
Faltan 23.
Papá, si tú tienes fe.
¿Y de dónde traigo? ¿De dónde voy a traer?
Midnight Family tells the story of a family-run ambulance in Mexico City, a city where the government has less than 45 ambulances for 9 million people. So a lot of the work is done by these kind of mom-and-pop ambulance businesses that find themselves juggling pretty big ethical dilemmas between putting food on the table every night and treating patients properly.
Ahora tenemos que agarrar el bueno. Hay una ambulancia.
I was living in Mexico City at the time. I moved there right after graduating from college, and I was shooting a few different projects, but wasn't really sure what I was doing there. And one morning woke up and met this ambulance family parked in front of my apartment building. I was young and curious and asked them if I could ride along for a night just to see what healthcare in Mexico City looked like. And in that first night saw this underworld of for-profit healthcare ambulances racing each other to accidents, competing for patients, and kind of knew in that moment that there was a film to be made, and ended up spending about 3 years with the Ochoa family filming their work. I asked them if I could, film them for a few days, and they immediately said yes. It was from there a long process of building trust and intimacy that would carry the film. When I'm making an observational film like Midnight Family, the real work and the real kind of art of it is building a bond that lets you get so close to somebody that the footage and the scenes and the story you're telling is visceral and intimate. That took years. Getting in the door took a few hours. It took months before I even really figured out what my big ethical limits would be and how I would go about talking with patients and getting permission from patients. And at about half of the accidents that we showed up to, I would just have to turn off the camera because of what was happening. And it was a film that I think really only could have been shot as a one-person crew precisely because of that matter. I would never have felt comfortable bringing a whole team of people into that ambulance.
Todos los policías a mí me están cobrando. Ya nos quedamos sin dinero, ¿eh? No, ya me entiendo hasta la madre.
The police in Mexico City are notoriously corrupt, but in a very in a big range of ways. Some of them were incredibly kind to me and kind of let me into their world, and some weren't. And it was always a surprise when we would arrive to a scene what would happen. They are really used to journalists being at the scene of accidents. There's kind of a whole culture in Mexico of kind of 24-hour, night crawler photojournalism. And I was able to kind of be a part of that world and not stick out too much. And they were also often really distracted with much more important things that were happening.
Oye, güey, o sea que no se dejaron cobrar, ¿o qué pedo?
Yo te agradezco mucho, no traigo dinero.
I find myself coming across stories every few months or every few years that just grip me and take a hold of me and won't let go. They tend to be stories of people trying to survive. I look for situations in which a really dynamic group of people really want something. And I want to be there as they try and achieve that goal. Really, every great story is a story of struggle, a story of, a group of characters trying hard to get to something. The Ochoa family is exactly that. They're this dynamic family whizzing around Mexico City at night trying to make a living. And there are so many challenges along the way. I really try to stay away from stories that have already happened. A lot of documentaries, get stuck recreating scenes or kind of getting people to tell in an interview what happened in the past, and I try to kind of hook onto characters before it's happened and follow them through the moment.
Yo quisiera que un día no saliera ni una puta particular y se den cuenta. Te dije de la diesel desde hace rato.
It's always been a challenge to balance my work in the sense of when I'm working for myself and when I'm working for other people. I direct for Netflix and other kind of big companies where I kind of pay the bills, and then I have my own films that don't, and building up the kind of courage to say no to projects that aren't the ones that are mine is always a challenge and something that I'm still working on, and having the faith that I can say no, spend the time on what means the most to me, and that it will work out is a cliff that is kind of worth jumping off, but you never know where you'll land.
Tengo un paciente que los oficiales no me dejan retirarme al hospital.